Do you want to improve your life? Well, let's talk about the 5 reasons why Jiu-Jitsu is the greatest life improvement asset of all time. Let's jump in. Now, I'm all for having a good time, drinking with the boys, doing what you need to do to sow your wild oats. But from the ages of 18 all the way up to about 32, all I did was drink and party. And guess what? During that time, although I was having fun, I wasn't chasing any goals. I wasn't starting any businesses. I wasn't saving any money. I wasn't really making that much money. I wasn't doing anything for myself other than pouring alcohol down my throat and having a good time. And I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't be doing that, but I am going to tell you why Jiu-Jitsu is going to help pull you out of that lifestyle and put you in a better place to go ahead and chase goals that make your life even better. For that 12-year stretch, partying was very much my identity. I went out almost every day of the week. I got too drunk almost every day of the week, and I made a fool of myself constantly. All too often, I found myself waking up the next day having to apologize for my actions because I either hurt someone or made myself look like an idiot. And because this was my identity and my lifestyle, I wasn't really doing anything for myself to make my life any better. And now that I'm a little bit wiser, a little bit older, I'm not against having a good time, but it's definitely not going to come at the cost of improving my life. And where everything changed for me is when I started Jiu-Jitsu. And before you go ahead and say, oh, another guy talking about how Jiu-Jitsu changed his life, I know, I get it. I've heard it a million times too. Why do you think we hear this so frequently? It's because it's true. It does change people's lives for the better. There are so many parallels we can draw between Jiu-Jitsu and athletics, or business, finance, personal relationships, self-respect, or even pushing deeper boundaries to accomplish bigger goals. And we're going to cover 5 of those parallels right now. If you're someone that's been training Jiu-Jitsu for a while, you're probably going to nod your head throughout all of these. If you're someone who's new to Jiu-Jitsu or thinking about trying Jiu-Jitsu, these are things that you can expect to experience along the way. This doesn't come just from my personal experience, but also the experience of others that I've been able to make connections with throughout the 7.5 years that I've been training Jiu-Jitsu. As we start the video, we'll be covering some of the more obvious points, and as we push towards the end of the video, we'll be covering some of the more less obvious points. Number 1, athleticism. I think that this one's pretty obvious because Jiu-Jitsu is a physical combat sport. I've touched on this before in previous videos. It's not uncommon that we see a new white belt enter the gym out of shape, but by the time they get their blue belt, they are in shape. And because athleticism does play a part in Jiu-Jitsu, some people are going to say it doesn't matter, it's not important. I'm going to tell you that it is important to some degree. There are several side quests that can come off the athleticism that is Jiu-Jitsu. One can start focusing on building strength or speed or stamina. You may even be interested in weight loss, whether that's trying to get to a new weight class or you're just interested in being healthier. Any way you slice it, getting yourself in better physical condition is at the foundation of seeing success in other places of your life, mainly as a confidence booster. And when you have more confidence, you're more likely to try new things. You're more likely to push boundaries. You're more likely to chase goals that you've been wanting to chase. So I think it's easy to see why athleticism or physical conditioning has made this list. Number 2, understanding that mistakes aren't failures. I know we've all heard the phrase, if you're not winning, you're learning. Meaning, if you lose, you can learn from that. Just because you're losing or you're making mistakes doesn't mean that you fail. Doesn't mean that you quit right then and there. You learn from that and then you carry on and you improve from that point. I think where this is the most obvious is with the Jiu-Jitsu belt system. As a white belt, you learn very quickly and rapidly that mistakes aren't your failures. Mistakes are your stepping stones to see greater success. As a white belt, you're not expected to be an expert in anything. And in fact, the journey of a white belt is to be tapping and losing very frequently. And because of that, one of the first things you begin to improve on is your defense. And we can draw parallels from that to starting a business, improving your finances, your athleticism, improving personal relationships, or even your own self-respect. Many times these journeys aren't linear. There's ups and there's downs. You have to remember that sometimes you go backwards, but you're always going forwards. And Jiu-Jitsu is a beautiful teacher in this. So whether you're starting a new business or you're trying to improve on yourself in any kind of way, you can remember your white belt days and remember that failures are only failures if you quit. You have to push through, learn from your mistakes, and those turn into beautiful stepping stones. If you remember that mistakes are actually stepping stones to see more success, they help keep you in the fight longer, and it'll help you get to the point you're trying to get to. If you're a beginner, you're a white belt, so stop expecting to be an expert right away. You got to put your time in, you got to put your sweat in, and eventually you'll get there. Number 3, more resilience when chasing goals. Now this kind of piggybacks off number 2, but because we understand that mistakes aren't failures, we are more resilient when we chase our goals. For this point, I like to relate it to learning a new skill, whether that be guitar, video editing, videography, maybe a new job. Because you know you're a beginner at this new skill, you know you're a white belt, and you shouldn't expect to be an expert at this right away. Because of this, you have more patience with yourself. You're more willing to make mistakes, and you're more willing to push through those mistakes to get to the goals you want to see. I can't tell you how important this is when starting a new skill. For me, when I started undertaking videography and photography, I never went to school for either of these things. I was completely self-taught, and I can tell you that every other step of the way, I was confused, I had questions, I had no idea what I was doing. And if I didn't persevere, if I didn't have that resilience, I never would have got to the point where I had my own photography company, making money doing something I enjoy. And I probably wouldn't be here making videos for YouTube. And so much of that I learned from jiu-jitsu, being resilient when chasing goals. If you're going to expect yourself to be skilled at anything, especially journeys that are challenging, you have to stay resilient for a long-term period of time. The best results come from long-term consistency, and you're not gonna get that without the resilience you need to see it through till the end. One of the toughest journeys you could ever experience is that of a white belt. You're constantly losing, you're constantly getting beat up, you're constantly tapping, and many times to people who are smaller and weaker than you. And if you learn to take that skill or ability over to your everyday life, you're really gonna see big improvements in that which you chase. Jiu-jitsu is a fantastic teacher because of this, and it's one of the many reasons why I've fallen so deeply in love with it. And I just want to take a second to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, X Martial. X Martial is a growing combat sport brand that's dedicated to supporting the jiu-jitsu community by sponsoring kids, athletes, and creators like myself. They produce high quality gis, no-gis, spats, and even streetwear, everything you need to take your training to the next level. So whether you're cracking, slapping, tapping, or napping, you can look as good as me and probably even better by picking yourself up some high quality gear from X Martial. If you'd like to support me and my channel, you can click on the link in the description, use my discount code IRONWILL to save yourself some money, and go ahead and grab some high quality fun jiu-jitsu gear. All right, that's enough gum bumping. Let's get back to the video. Number 4, increased discipline. You start to realize that the more you train, the better you get. And this transfers so nicely to everyday life. In order to be consistent, you need discipline, and jiu-jitsu is a fantastic teacher of this. Without discipline, growth will be slowed or even stunted, and where this becomes evident is in periods of low to no training versus periods of consistent training. And this will directly relate to anything that you are chasing, any goal, any self-improvement journey, anything that you want to pursue. People can sense low levels of discipline. Whether you're starting a new business or you're pursuing a boyfriend or a girlfriend, low levels of discipline are very evident, easy to see, and highly unattractive. You've probably noticed that when you're performing your best on the mats, you've been going to class consistently, you've been consistently sparring and choosing hard rounds, competitive rounds, choosing people who push your limits. That's when we perform our best. That's when we feel the most ready for competition or fights. Jiu-jitsu really helps show the value here and proves that increased discipline directly translates to better results. Number 5, the increased ability to stay calm in uncomfortable and even dangerous circumstances. As you progress through the jiu-jitsu belt system, you'll experience your fair share of positions that squeeze the air out of you, make you feel trapped, and even claustrophobic. You realize real quick that panicking makes these situations even worse. And with that lesson comes the confidence to handle yourself when life gets tough. From mental challenges such as keeping a struggling business afloat, to pursuing goals that are deeply important to you, all the way to handling physically aggressive confrontations with an aggressive person, jiu-jitsu does a fantastic job at teaching us to stay calm, think, and use good decision-making skills to unwind and solve problems as they happen in front of us. Imagine how solid you look when nothing shakes you. Well, that's exactly what jiu-jitsu teaches us, and that transfers directly to our everyday life, especially when we're chasing things that are important to us. So, as you can see, jiu-jitsu can greatly alter someone's life for the better. I think if you're someone who's concerned with self-improvement, you're doing yourself a disservice by not training jiu-jitsu. And like I said at the start of the video, if you're someone who's already on the mats getting your jiu-jitsu on, you probably nodded your head in agreement throughout this entire video. Those of us who've trained jiu-jitsu have been through it, and a lot of us have seen really great changes in our life because of this combat sport, because of this martial art. The best and probably most difficult step you can take for yourself if you're concerned with self-improvement is actually getting yourself inside a jiu-jitsu school and signing up. I've heard many people say before that the white belt is the hardest belt to get, and I couldn't agree more. I remember signing up back in the day, and even though I was a power lifter with wrestling background, deep down in, I was scared that I was gonna get wrecked. I was scared I was going to get hurt, and I was scared I was going to look stupid. But once I got over that, once I got over myself, I was able to see so many beautiful things and improvements happen in my life thanks to jiu-jitsu. But once you do that, find a school and get signed up, you're in, and the results are already on the way. Guys, let's keep the comments rolling. I've really been enjoying reading some of your own experiences. A lot of you have so much wisdom that blows me away. So if you've got a good experience where jiu-jitsu's taught you something important in life, drop it in the comments. It doesn't just help me, it helps anyone reading the comments. It helps people who are thinking about starting and might be nervous. So drop your experiences below. It helps more people than you realize. And with that being said, I truly appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching this far. We're building a community here where we're all learning and growing together, and I couldn't be happier or more proud to be a part of it. Remember, we've got more athlete recipes, fitness, and jiu-jitsu content along the way. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. I'd love to have you along for the ride. And with that, you know how we like to end them. Eat plants, train hard, and feel good. I'll see you in the next one. And as you can see, guys, I'm still Gimp Life, but the doctor confirmed I can return to the mats by the end of this month, and I couldn't be more excited to become a problem for all my training partners once again. If you've ever had to take time off for an injury, you know what I'm talking about. It sucks, but guess what? Sometimes backwards, always forwards. You know how we do it. I'll see you in the next one.